Hey everybody. I often get asked about my waterfall tank and how I built my waterfall, and it would be a daunting task to try to go over and explain everything I did to that waterfall, being that it's already up and running. I did do a series of videos as I put it together. It wasn't necessarily a how-to or instructional, but if you look through some of the older videos on my playlist of the waterfall tank, you will see some of these sort of in progress type videos and you'll get a better idea of how I built it. But what we are looking at here is one of my early failed attempts, and it's just been sitting in my basement. I always thought about getting around to doing something with it and maybe making it into something that would actually work, but I need the room, so it's getting torn apart today and thrown in the trash. So I thought we could have a little bit of a look at how I built this one, because this is basically the prototype and it was not very effective. You can see I built it out of the expandable foam. I built a simple frame out of PVC pipe, and then I wired that with chicken wire, and then I just started building layer after layer of foam onto the chicken wire. And under here there's a piece of plastic that's, connected to the back to give me the horizontal strength. And likewise, there's some chicken wire that's been bent out this way. Squeaker wants to come over and see what we're doing too. Thought I heard him out here talking to us. And of course, there's chicken wire pulled out this way to give me a platform to create some of the foam there. So the first thing I ran into problems with was the water simply flows right through this foam. It did not make any kind of watertight seal at all, and I mean it flows right through it like it's made out of a screen. It didn't even slow the water down. When I first got it up and running, the idea was the water would pump into this basin and then it would flow out of this basin into here, and then I would get this sort of running effect. And what it did was it flowed out of this basin, flowed straight through, hit there, flowed straight through, and right out the bottom. It did not slow it down. So I began spraying rubberized paint. You see the commercials for it on TV where they've spray painted a screen door in the bottom of a boat, and the boat still floats and so on and so forth. It's good stuff. It actually does work and do what it's supposed to do. The problem is it simply can't get down into all of the little places it needs to get to. So I then took the same rubber seal. They make it in a paint that's not a spray paint but a brushable paint, and I began just slopping that on here and just trying desperately to get enough of it to just soak into the holes that it would seal them up. And I never really got it to work. I wound up just giving up on this one altogether, and we ultimately ended up with my the waterfall tank that we've got now. And the only thing I really did differently was I built it the same way, but then I took some cloth material. It was like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's sort of like a non-woven mesh material that's sort of like a cross between like a really, really tough paper and like a fibery cloth kind of material. And I took that and laid it over everything and just kind of made a covering of the cloth material. And then I sprayed that with the rubberized paint to give me more of a seal. And that still didn't really work and do it for me. So I wound up having to use silicone, and I made silicone paint, and I wound up painting coat after coat after coat to get my waterfall tank to seal up. So that's one of the things I would do differently. I would not build it out of this expandable foam. I think I would build my framework out of the chicken wire or something similar, and then it would probably be more expensive, and I would have to build it out here. But I would build it out of fiberglass and resin, and then it would have to be carried downstairs. So that's one of the problems with my current waterfall tank. It's so big, I actually built it in situ. That will have to be dismantled to get taken out of the house. I built it where it stands, and I used all the silicone paint and all of that in the basement. I wouldn't be able to do that with epoxy resin and fiberglass. That's just way too, the fumes are not something I would be able to do in the house. So I'd have to build smaller and maybe even build modular and put the pieces together once they got inside. That would be an option, but I would not be able to build it the way I built this one. So at any rate, I feel like We're spending a lot of time just looking at the same thing without any real new information here. But this gives you a pretty good idea of the prototype of how I started with the other one. Again, you can see how it's supposed to flow in, flow this way, and then flow that way, and then flow this way. And then this was going to be over a 20 long. And of course, whenever I do something that doesn't work, I say, hey, I could do the same thing, but bigger. And so that's why we've got my big waterfall tank downstairs now over a 40 breeder instead of the 20 long. So if anybody has any questions specifically about, techniques I used or things I did, if you're interested, I'll attach a card to the silicone paint, how I made the rubberized paint. And that was really handy. That's a good one to know for any sort of outdoor activity. If you want to waterproof your hammock or waterproof your tent or whatever, it's nice to know how to make a rubberized silicone paint that you can paint on cloth that will then cure into rubber. So there you go. I'm going to say thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. You don't want any update and don't want to miss any updates on anything I got coming up in the fish room or out here in the yard. It is kind of the end of summer and everything's starting to look yellow and shaggy and dying back, and the glory days of summer are definitely behind us. So I don't know how many more yard tours we're going to be able to get out here and do this year. But at any rate, make sure you're subscribed, and that way you won't miss any of it. And then don't forget, I'm going to put this one here on my waterfall tank so you can see the real thing if you want to check out that playlist. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you real soon in the next one.